So Windsor is doing something that is really close to my heart. She's talking about mental health, OCD in particular, and she's combining it incredibly with a sense of fun and humor through her content that I think is really unique. And it's something that I've not really seen. I don't know about you, Windsor, but I've not really seen other people do. I think a lot of mental health accounts, you know, rightly so, are quite serious in many ways, and, you know, kind of look at it quite scientifically, but you bring so much personality to it. So yeah, I would love to chat to you about your thinking behind it, where your ideas come from, how you put stuff together, and how the things you've learned, I guess. So do you want to say a little bit about what you do on your Instagram and your blog?
Yeah, so on my Instagram account, I really just try to bring awareness to OCD and maternal mental health in general, because I feel like it is talked about. We know it. We know there's a spectrum, but there's not really many identifiable faces behind it. Like with postpartum depression, I think I remember hearing about a few famous people, not like I'm famous or anything, but like a few famous people in the media that we could say, oh, this person experienced postpartum depression. Okay, I've heard of that before, but there wasn't anyone saying, I had postpartum OCD, I had intrusive thoughts. And so, but I knew these women existed, and I knew that the main reason people weren't talking about it was because they were embarrassed, and it's like too hard to talk about, too taboo. People might get offended, shocked, you know, all those things. Mm-hmm. And I just decided, why not? Like there was a few people, like Catherine Benfield was the only one that I had heard of. But I knew she was based in the UK. I didn't see anything really happening here in the States. So I just really wanted to bring it up and say, hey, we're here, we exist, and we're not like hiding anymore. You know what I mean?
100%. And I guess the big sort of context, you know, for anyone who doesn't know, that I also have OCD, so it's kind of that. Yeah, I identify, and so many women and men really identify with your account, because you talk about it so openly, to that point where people are like, oh wow, like someone else is going through it, especially when you're at the beginning, before you get the diagnosis, before you start your recovery. Like people like you are really important for that process. So yeah, I mean, I think when your account starts, so how many followers do you have now?
I think just about 3,000. I just went over 3,000 like a couple of days ago.
And you started it last November 2019?
Yeah, right before Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. So can you talk a little bit about, because you've got a really distinct like visual style to your account, where does that come from, and how do you create your posts, and what's the feeling behind it?
Well, I'm really interested in design. I really love interior design also, and I enjoy a certain type of like modern aesthetic, kind of peeled back and fresh. So that's kind of what I tried to go for when doing anything I create. So when I'm like looking for inspiration, I guess I kind of just look at what's around me. I have lots of like Dwell magazine or Architectural Digest, and I just kind of see whatever catches my eye and try to translate that into a text post as much as possible. I don't know if it's super intentional. It wasn't super intentional in the beginning, but I just figured if I'm going to create something, I want it to be as close to my personal style as possible. And so that's what I tried to do with the Instagram.
And I think that's the beauty of Instagram. I feel like we've moved away from this like perfect, like you've got this mix of like beautiful, stylish posts that obviously reflect your own like personal style. Yeah, I mean, it's great. And I think that, but also your personality comes across. And I think over time it'd be great to hear, because obviously my particular interest is in video and how you use video. So can you talk a little bit about the kind of video that you post? Because I've definitely seen a evolution of those videos. Mm-hmm. So maybe talking from the way that you first started to do video to how it is now.
Yeah. Okay. So when I first started the Instagram, it was a lot more educational, a lot more text and graphic posts. And then when I was doing any video, it was really like, here I am in my kitchen. I'm just kind of talking about how OCD affected me today. Or it was just like really vulnerable posts about things that were bothering me, like my intrusive thoughts. But I wasn't feeling... I was feeling a little constricted in the beginning because I felt like there was a certain image I had to portray. Like, this is a mental health account. We're serious. This is kind of a big deal. And I don't want to be like an influencer in any kind of way. I don't want to take away the legitimacy of what I'm talking about. But then it takes a lot of time to create content and to create posts. And I found that the more authentic I was being, the easier it was to continue doing it. So I just figured, I'm just going to put myself out there. This is my account. It's not, I mean, it's for people with OCD, but it's really an extension of my therapy. And there's no reason for me to do it if it doesn't feel right. So I was like, I'm just going to put as much of my personality as I can into this and see what happens. So it just started to get a little more lighthearted because I'm really goofy and I joke a lot. I don't take things too seriously. So I think it just started coming out in my videos the more I went on. Yeah. And I've been having a lot of fun with it because I do think some of it is really hilarious. Like, if you think about OCD, it is serious, but it's bonkers. The content is crazy. The content is ridiculous. And if you can't laugh about it, I mean, you just cry. So
I think, like, just going back to therapy, and that was one of the things that helped me so much. Like, not that this is about talking about, you know, the mental health side, but just being able to laugh. And find things that bring you joy, and, you know, to be able to laugh at the ridiculousness of the thoughts that, you know, only people with OCD can really understand, because it is so dark, so dark. So I think that you bring like fun to it. The series that you've done with your OCD wearing sunglasses, and then looking back to it, like, I think that's so simple, so effective. Can you describe it a little bit, that set of videos?
Yeah, so those were the non-engagement response videos. And originally I had this idea, because I'm totally new to video. I'm not a content creator. Like, I would never call myself that. But I got this video app. I think it's called Video Leap. And I was like, okay, I want to show how to respond to OCD, because it talks at us all day, and there's definitely a right way and a wrong way. Like, there's no doubt about that, right? But when you can explain things in text, it's not always that easy. And I was thinking, okay, so my son, he learns in a different way than other people in his class. So maybe, I mean, that also rings true for adults. So let's try and explain this in a way that's super visual and really easy to understand. And I came up with this idea, and I was like, it was really hard, the idea that I wanted to do. It was going to be me, and I was going to superimpose another image of me talking to, obviously dressed in different outfits or whatever, but talking to my OCD. I spent hours trying to do that. I still don't know how to do it. Like, I figured it out, but it wasn't perfect. And I was like, okay, scratch that. What's an easier way to do this? So I figured just a headshot. The only costume change I need is just sunglasses. People will get it. And I just kind of I just tried it out, and it worked out really well, and the followers responded super well to it. So, I mean, I didn't even really mean to continue doing that. I just did it as a one-off because I wanted to try to incorporate more style, like a different style of video, but I had failed miserably at it. And so part of my OCD or my perfectionism is, well, I can't just not do it. I have to figure out now how to get a video up. So it just kind of happened that way.
I love it. It was kind of like an exposure to actually make it and it be imperfect.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things, and I remember this shift happened like from the perfect influencers that felt really inaccessible, all their pictures were, you know, perfect, and therefore it put other people off, to, I think it was when Insta stories really started, and the fact that people could move away from just the perfect grid and be in someone's life and see the, you know, the kind of bit more real stuff. And I think it's great, like you said, that you tried to make it almost like polished and higher end, and it actually, and it rings true with something you said earlier about that idea that you only continue doing this stuff because it's doable and because you enjoy doing it. Like, you're not getting paid, you don't have, like, you know, this is something for you, and the harder things end up being, the less likely you are to do them. I know it with myself. Like, I always have this rule where if I'm finding myself like forcing myself to write something or like forcing it, I just don't do it. I'm like, why am I doing this? Who am I doing this for?
Exactly.
Yeah, so I love the fact that the videos, and I actually genuinely believe that this is more effective than what it probably would have been.
I think so too. That's why, so I did it and I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't know, man. And my husband's not a good person to get feedback from because he doesn't relate at all. And he thinks that the whole Instagram social media thing is just ridiculous, right? We could live a happy life without it. So I kind of showed it to him and he was just like, oh yeah, cool, babe, whatever. And so I posted it, and then immediately the response was overwhelming, like, wow, this is so great because this is totally, it was relatable, number one. And then also a good learning point, like someone had taught me about those non-engagement responses, and the first time I heard about it, I was like, whoa, this is blowing my mind. And so I contacted her, or she contacted me after one of the posts about NERs, and her name is Lisa Levine. And now we go back and forth, and she always gives me more information as she finds them. And she even scripted the last couple of videos of those.
I think that's that really fine line, isn't it, with mental health stuff, because you're not a professional, you're going through it yourself, and your account is your own, but it still has influence over people. So you need to make sure that you're doing right by them, so the more professional help you can kind of get. So that's interesting. So some of them were scripts that were done so that you,
like the first one I did, and then she was like, I think it was the ones toward the end where I did the 4 different types of non-engagement responses. She scripted those. She offered to. She was like, I love it. You can use your own scripts if you want, but these are examples of the different types. I would love for you to share them. So I made a couple of the videos on her request, actually. But it was really helpful because she, you know, she's a professional and she sees clients. So she used examples that I would never have thought of.
And I think as well, it's kind of, I'm just trying to make sure that when we speak, because we both know what we're talking about, but like the context is, so within OCD, like non-engagement responses is basically not getting into that conversation with your OCD, where it's saying, oh, you know, you might harm that child, or you could have hit someone when you drove past. Like, rather than arguing against it, it's kind of accepting that you might have done those things. And I think that a lot of OCD is so complicated. It's complicated enough for the people that are going through the therapy, but the you know, friends and family. And what I think is so great about the videos that you've done is, like, I could show my husband or show my mum the video, and it'd be like, no, this is what I have to do. Don't reassure me. This is how I need to speak to myself. And I think that's really helpful, because normally, psychiatry, and it's usually just reams and reams of text, isn't it? And I think that's what's so great also about the Made of Millions website, is the fact that they have videos there that explain it in a minute. Like, we all, you know, how much capacity do we really have to watch long things?
For sure.
Short, snappy. So talking about short and snappy, Can you tell us, like, talk a little bit about your TikToks, because they're super fun.
Oh yeah, so I love TikTok. I had just discovered it, and at first I didn't know. I was just kind of lurking and watching videos. And I tried a couple of dancing ones just for fun. Not my thing. I can't do those. But
I think you did a good job.
yeah, the one dance I did, it took me like hours to learn, and it was still like, I mean, I would do it, but I just don't have the time. But I love a good lip sync. And once I figured out that you can do that on TikTok, I was hooked because, I mean, first of all, it's so quick. Like, I could upload my own, audio recordings or whatever, but I have 2 kids at home. They're not in school. I don't have that kind of time. TikTok is perfect because they just have like this huge library of audio available to use. And so what I'll do is I'll just scroll through and see how I can like manipulate some audio so that it's relevant to an OCD topic. Mm-hmm. Just because it's fast. It's a minute long. It's less than a minute long, and people can watch that. And I think people love, it's kind of like a visual metaphor or something, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, again, it's the humor side, right? So do you tend to know the clip because either you know the famous quote or you've seen it with someone else on TikTok? Like, what's the process? How do you find them?
No, I'll go and I'll scroll and I'll just see, like, first of all, what I think that I could like mimic, like what would kind of seem natural. Like, I won't do a man's voice because it doesn't really work. So if there's a woman's voice, I don't know. I know it when I see it. Like, the ones that are obviously about mental health, I try to stay away from those. And I just use things that are kind of generic, I guess, but they fit into an OCD scenario. Like the last one that was like, yes, but no, but yes, but no.
I don't know if you saw, but I did it as well. And I was just like, the other thing that's really fun about TikTok, like, it doesn't matter. It just sort of flattens everything because everyone can get involved and anyone can kind of take it and make it their own. And
yeah,
I don't know why, but they are just so addictive, like, to watch. Like, I could watch, I don't know. I know
hours.
Yeah, you can just watch it. People come up with such incredible ideas, but like you said, you've stuck really well to the theme, right? So you're not like doing different things all the time. It's always coming back to the mental health conversation, the OCD advocacy. So do you feel that your account will always be about that, or do you want it to evolve with you, or do you even think about the future of it?
No, I've been thinking about it a lot, actually. This has been an ongoing conversation. It's funny that you ask it today because I mean, I feel like the OCD advocacy part is important to me because it was part of my healing journey, right? I felt like I needed to do that. I needed to tell my truth and I needed to explain it to other people and I needed to be open with it to start to like get that healing part, right? Because I didn't want to feel embarrassed anymore. So I figured I'm going to start this Instagram. It's going to be a huge exposure. Like before I did those videos, when I was doing it with the exposure project, I couldn't do it. It would take me hours to just make one talking video. It wasn't even scripted. It was so hard. And I just felt so embarrassed all the time. And so that's how I even started it. And then eventually I was like, okay, well, maybe I can like continue with the advocacy route. Like, let's see where this goes. And so this Instagram has kind of been helping me evolve as a person because I'm figuring out what I like, what I don't like. You know, I liked the educational parts, but at the end of the day, I'm not a teacher. I'm not a peer counselor. You know, I'm just here trying to figure my shit out after or during recovery, figuring out how I even want to exist in the social media world. And as much as OCD is super important to me, it's not my whole entire life. my life doesn't revolve around OCD anymore, besides the fact that I run an account that's dedicated to OCD. So I feel like there will be a natural progression away from it. But of course, I'll like always bring the conversation back to mental health because I am so passionate about it. And I would hate to just completely move on from that part, because I know that there's so many women who are not there yet. There's always going to be women who are just getting to that conversation, who need to be poked and prodded.
They'll just read a post of yours, you know, in years to come, and it'll be something you posted like 3 years ago, and it will suddenly resonate with them. And I think that's what's so important about mental health, you know, accounts and real people like talking about it.
Yeah.
So just again, kind of bringing it back to like content marketing and that idea that, you know, you've grown an account and it is growing.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, you've tapped into something unique and people are responding really well. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, the particular things that people have responded best to, or what you've learned in terms of like what content works, what doesn't?
Yeah. So obviously I started the account for advocacy, but I do have the type of personality where if I do something, I do like to do a good job. So once I started, I was like, okay, how can I foster growth? And what are going to be the easiest ways for me to grow the account, and what's going to be like the fastest ways? And people respond really well to video. Like with each TikTok post, I think I get like 10 or 15 new follows or something. And that was on purpose. Like I did the first one not intending to keep doing the TikToks, but I realized quickly that people just love watching videos, and people love laughing at, like, it's like a meme. It's like a moving meme, and people love finding something that they can relate to, that's quick, easy, and you can show it to someone and be like, oh, do you understand now what I go through? And so I was like, okay, well, I'll do more of that, because that's all I want. If I could sum up my Instagram account, it would be one of those TikToks, right? Relatable, to the point, and
Funny.
Kind of funny. Okay. So I stuck with that. And as far as like the educational posts, people really like those, but I stopped doing so much text because it can get overwhelming. If you're scrolling through a feed and it's like, learn this, read this, it's just like a lot. So I try to spread those apart.
I think that's a really good lesson as well. And again, thinking, you know, with brand sort of head on it, and we'll talk a bit more about your thoughts on that as well. But there's something, I don't know if you know, but it's kind of known like as like hub, it's known as hero, hub, and help content, which is basically like different kinds of content that, you know, pepper different platforms and are more in depth. So I'd say your educational content was more like that, perhaps like the hub stuff, and the help stuff, and I'm probably getting this all wrong, but like are the little TikToks that kind of like quick, easy, you know, you understand what you're trying to say, but then if someone wants to know a little bit more and like get under the skin of, you know, perhaps, you know, the non-exposure response, then they would watch your longer videos that explain that a little bit better. So in terms of like organizing your content, does it all just live on the Instagram, or do you have it anywhere else? Or
I have the TikTok videos, they live on TikTok, but I don't really do anything with that account. But no, I don't know. I mean, there's a certain amount of planning that goes into it, but as far as all the videos, they only live on the Instagram. Like I don't keep them anywhere else. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I think what I mean, and again, it's something that I'm kind of learning in like how, so like Twitter, for example, you don't really use your Twitter account, do you?
No, so much so that I forgot my password and I can't even log back in. I would like to use it, but
I think it's so interesting because I think that there's always a platform that as an individual that someone will feel more in tune with, you know, people with YouTube, like really get, but then if you really want to grow and you really want to kind of, I guess, spread the word and like have various different touch points, you need to understand all those channels and like how they work. But yeah, no, Instagram is clearly like, you know, the affinity that you have because it's visual. And I think the interesting thing about TikTok at the moment is the fact that people are growing accounts really fast on TikTok, unknowns, but so many people are literally just using it as a bit of a dumping ground in a way, and then bringing it to Instagram, because you create it on TikTok, and then obviously you bring it across to Instagram. Like, have you found anyone engaging on TikTok in the same way as Instagram?
Like people engaging on my TikTok with my content or other accounts? No, people are, I mean, I know that there's a few people who follow, because once I started hashtagging my videos on Instagram, I am getting like random followers. Each new video, if I hashtag it with OCD, there are people looking for mental health themed videos.
Yeah.
So, but as far as engagement goes with that, not so much. And I don't even know how it works. I noticed like some accounts, there's like a thing where you do a video reply to a comment. Oh, someone's calling me. Fun fact, there's a hurricane about to hit the island where I grew up. So,
oh God, where did you grow up?
Everyone's calling. But yeah, I don't know how the engagement works on TikTok.
Well, this is it. I think that's interesting as well, because you can tell that with your Instagram account, you're giving that attention. All these channels just it's like nurturing it's kind of like watering a garden, isn't it? It's like constantly nurturing it. It would be really great to kind of understand your thoughts on community, because I think that, and it was like when you first reached out to me about doing the live stream with you, you know, your community is your content in a way, like that kind of synergy between the people that you are talking to and your content. Like, how influenced are you by other people? Like, because you do ask questions a lot to them? And
I do. Like every month or 2 months or something, maybe sometimes even longer, I'll go and I'll do a reach out to the community. What can I do for you? What topics would you like to cover? What's working for you? What's not? And in the beginning, actually, I was like, should I do more videos? And there was like, no.
Really?
Yeah. Some people were like, no, I don't like the videos. And I'm sure those people have quickly unfollowed me. I'll have like a lot of unfollows all the time, like 6.
You know what? That's super interesting. So like when you post something, what have you found? Because again, let's be fair, like a lot of unfollows can just be bots or whatever. Like you don't know what they actually are. Do you track any of that? Like who's following?
I don't track that because I try not to be too, like, honestly, if you're unfollowing me, great. Because you probably won't like what's coming next, because my account is getting more and more personal as we go on. And if you're going to be part of a community, you should probably enjoy the person who started it, right? Like,
100%.
So I
think that people go in cycles as well. They'll come back to you and then they'll go and they'll, you know, we all have it. And I think that that's what I've always loved about the muting, you know, because I have people I care about, but sometimes I just can't have them in that feed like all the time. So I just mute stories and then I unmute them, and so
I do that too. But I do try to give the community what they ask for. Because sometimes, like, because I'm in a different stage of recovery, I kind of don't even think about OCD that much. I mean, unless something new happens, like, oh, I'm having a heart attack, or like last month for a week, I was like, damn, here we go again. But it went away. Like,
I think
I settled down.
I mean, I feel amazed at how well I've kind of gotten through all of this lockdown, but actually there were definitely points where I was just like, oh, like we're stepping backwards, and you know, and then you really practice the exposures. Oh, thanks so much, Windsor. In terms of like content, like I realize we could probably talk for ages, but as a podcast, let's wrap it up. But like, what are your future sort of aspirations? You talked about maybe moving away from talking about OCD so much, like talking about your other passions. Do you have big plans for the account?
Yeah, I have a few plans. Obviously, any change will be implemented gradually because I don't want to shock anyone or even shock myself, right? Because I don't want to like there's not going to be like a whole rebrand or anything like that, but I would like to explore other avenues and other interests and maybe just so like right now it's like all OCD. I wouldn't mind it moving into 3/4 or even half OCD, because part of it is like right now I'm kind of preaching to the choir. But it would be cool to be able to teach other people who maybe don't have OCD that like, oh, there's like all these people who have it, and look, it's the same as everyone else. We love hair and makeup. We love skincare. I have a family that I take to the beach. I also read books that have nothing to do with OCD. Like there's like a lot going on, and I would like to have OCD be just another thing.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I think the beauty in a way is kind of, you've got a really nice rhythm now. People are getting to know you as a person. And let's be fair, like the majority of reasons why we follow people is because we like the people. Obviously we care, I could really like someone, but they might be talking about a subject all the time that I'm just not interested in. And I probably wouldn't follow them, but it's the people actually, that we care about, and you should be able to be nuanced and make it like whatever you want it to be. So with everything that you've learned then, because again, I want to be talking to like marketing managers, and I think, and brands, so often like brands are trying to like shoehorn their way into these communities or into, talking naturally. Like, what kind of advice would you give marketing managers in terms of building community? Because you've done it, you've built a community, you've created content that engages people. I think inevitably there's always a jolt when it comes to like becoming an ad or like working with a brand. Like, I'd be interested to know how you would ever see that with you, especially on mental health, because it's such a sensitive area. I'm not sure myself, like how a brand can engage with that. But putting the mental health stuff aside, like, what can brands and marketing managers learn from what you've learned over the last, 8 months about content marketing as a thing?
I don't know. So the thing with answering these questions is I don't even think of it like that, content.
Done something in a way that's kind of like the magic, like you've done something that's that little bit of magic that people want to try and understand, if that makes sense. Like you said about what people respond to.
As far as, I have like my sister-in-law, for example, she's a brand, she's a jewelry brand, and she also has been trying to create community within her field, which is ethical jewelry. And it's really interesting to look at, because from a mental health perspective, you want that personal touch. You want to know who's talking to you. You want to be able to relate to them because it is so personal. And when you let people see your shortcomings, I think, and things that are hard for you, people automatically have a softer spot for you and they respond better. Not like I use this as a formula, but it's just true in relationships, right? You have to soften to get someone else to soften. So in reaching out to a stranger on Instagram requires a certain amount of vulnerability, and that will only happen if you feel safe, where you feel like you'll be responded to. So using that knowledge, I just try to be as real as possible and leave room to be like relatable, right? I'm not gonna want to build community with someone who I feel is like I would have to be really reaching to be like, or to find some common ground with. So I feel like just going down to like an honest and relatable level is really important, but also figuring out what the your community or the audience that you want to reach, like what do they need, what do they want, and once you can figure that out, then it's really easy to create community. I
Yeah.
don't know how helpful that is.
No, no, it's super helpful, and it's the exact kind of advice that I would give to people when it comes to that. It's funny because I said, oh, I don't know how brands sort of fit in, but actually some of the things that, and I don't know if I'm going to say the name right, but is it Pistachio, like the lovely...
Yeah, Pistachio, I think.
yeah, so it's like this gorgeous like stationery and stuff, but it's got those affirmations. And again, I guess what I mean when I say brands sometimes is like the big brands.
Yeah.
We have a lot of brands here that are trying to have, like Lloyd's Bank have tried to have the mental health conversation, and for me some of it like missed the mark slightly. Some brands have done it better. I think Ford did some ads again about men talking with one another about mental health. It's just such an interesting area. I think there are some brands that should leave it alone, and some brands that can connect with it, and it's just got to be the right sort of synergy. But
you have to see if your brand even aligns with those values. Like banking, for example. I don't even know what brand you said, but Lloyd's and
humanize it. They're trying, because obviously banking is such an integral part of people's lives. So the more that they make it like, oh, we understand how hard it is to have those money conversations. That's kind of the route they've gone, and I get that, but I don't know, maybe I'm being a cynic, but it didn't quite work. But
no, sometimes it just doesn't work. Like even if you're taking like someone who talks about mental health, like me, for example, and then other brands reaching out to you, it's like, well, you can't spin everything to make sense with mental health.
Exactly,
You know?
it has to align. And I think the best influencers, if you want to call them that, make sure that they are not selling out to brands that don't align. And often I think that's quite hard decisions, because they can be met with quite big potential earnings, and they actually have to say, no, because this is going to go against, what I'm trying to say. But yeah, cool. Thank you. Have you had any brands reach out, or?
I have. Sorry, you'll hear my daughter yelling in a minute. I've had because I have kids, it'll be like probiotic for kids, or I think like Calmigo reached out to use their inhaling thing. But I don't use that. I don't know. I just feel like I can't. There's a lot of things I don't feel comfortable with. Like unless I truly like it, I'm not gonna. So loud. I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd rather just make my own brand.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much, Windsor, and I'm so excited to see how your account grows. And obviously we didn't really talk about it, but I'm super proud of everything that we've created with the OCD Parents Project, which is something that feels like this lovely, again, Facebook community of people. It kind of runs itself in many ways, people supporting each other. So yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I always love talking to you.